I'm Elisa Bieletich Davis, and you're listening to Everyday Orthodox. And I literally could not remember what day it was. I wanted to say October, but I was pretty sure October was over. But so here we are on November 3rd, back on Everyday Orthodox. We get together here on Sunday nights to meet everyday Orthodox Christians. And it's always a joy because people are so interesting. You know, it's like when you go to coffee hour and you sit down next to someone, and if you just start asking them questions, like not about what they're doing right now, but, you know, where did they live before? What was their story before? I swear to you, you will find all the time that people surprise you. And they have been all sorts of interesting places and done interesting things. And I think it's just because Orthodox people are really interesting. You know, we have a lot of people who are immigrants. We have a lot of people who are the children of immigrants, which is its own special experience, right? Often with a lot of good stories attached. And of course, we have a lot of converts. And the converts just come in from everywhere, from all different places, and come in by all different paths. So there's always just something going on. And I just think it's a good thing for us to get to know one another, especially because in the Orthodox Church here in North America, we're divided up into different jurisdictions. You know, we're worshiping sometimes in different languages or on different calendars. And a lot of times, you know, people in the Antiochian church know other Antiochians, and people in the OCA know other OCA people, and the Greeks know the other Greeks. We don't know each other, right? So it's like, well, let's get together here every week. And, you know, sometimes you're going to meet someone who's Serbian or Russian, and sometimes they're converts and converts to different churches and all the different jurisdictions. So my goal is to help all of us get to know each other and really come to appreciate just the beauty of Orthodoxy and the beauty of this community that we have here. And, you know, in the end, that is really what unity in the church is, right? It's about loving one another and getting to know one another. So we are here on Sunday nights. We're on the Ancient Faith website. We're on the AFR app. We are on the Ancient Faith Ministries Facebook Live. We're on YouTube. And by the way, on YouTube, you can actually see us. Everywhere else, it's just audio, but on YouTube, it's video. So you can come on YouTube and watch us and get to see our smiling faces. And we also archive the show on both YouTube and on Ancient Faith. So if you miss a show, that's okay. Just come listen to it later. So, all right, without any further ado, I want to tell you about tonight's guest. I'm really excited about our conversation tonight because I'm looking forward to getting to know her. But our guest tonight is named Jaleen Claassen, and she works at the Treehouse in Wichita. So the Treehouse opened in 2001, and it's a nonprofit that serves women in need of comfort and confidence along their parenting journey. And so they had just been opened a few short years when Jaleen was led to it. You know, she showed up with a background in elementary education, and the Treehouse was there doing all this wonderful work. And she ended up being able to contribute significantly to their Earn While You Learn programs and to work with the kids. And, you know, she's the kind of person who wants to meet moms who are struggling with past trauma and hurt, just to meet them with real compassion and empathy, and to help them develop action plans, right, to move their families forward in a meaningful way and to a good place. So it's a wonderful thing. She's worked there as a volunteer, also as an operations manager. She was the director of client services, and now she's the executive director at the Treehouse, which is fantastic. She's also a wife and mother of 4, so she's busy. She's a very busy woman, but it helps her, of course, relate to all the challenges that moms face and to really understand what people are going through. So we're going to be talking about the Treehouse tonight. We're also just going to talk about Jaleen and how she found her way to the Treehouse, how she found her way to the Orthodox Church, and her whole story from beginning to end. So Jaleen, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm delighted to have you. I'm excited. I'm happy to get to know you, and I'm excited to get to know a little bit about the Treehouse because I've heard about it here and there, but I don't know a lot. So it's all very exciting to me. But tell me, where does your story start? Were you always in Wichita, Kansas, or where were you born?
I was born in western Kansas, in the wheat fields of Kansas. My family, my mom's side of the family, has a wheat farm and soybean, all the things. So my earliest memories are, you know, sitting at the feet of my mom while she was driving a combine and, you know, just participating in that and growing up, kind of working together as a family to bring harvest in. And so a lot of fond memories as a kiddo.
That's awesome. Yeah, I grew up as well on a farm in agriculture, and it is a neat thing, right? I think especially for women, you kind of grow up like working in a way that a lot of other girls just don't get that opportunity, and they're not doing that sort of stuff. So, do you know how to drive a combine? Like, could you do it right now if you needed to?
No, they have changed. They have changed so much. I think being younger, I usually was on the grain cart. had to drive the grain cart, and the older family members definitely got the bigger equipment. But yeah, we grew
That's
up
fair. That's
prepping
more
meals
dangerous
for everybody, and yeah, I could grease all the combines and wash the windshields and get them ready for the day. But
there you go. So you were more grunt labor at that point.
Pretty much. But yeah. I mean, we were out there. I was driving by 9 or 10 years of age and helping move equipment, and it's a different kind of childhood, but one that I think back on quite a bit. So
that's neat. Did you have siblings, or was it just you doing all that work?
I have an older brother and a younger sister. So, nice. And we only lived. They did, yes. And my family moved to eastern Kansas, southeast Kansas when I was pretty young. We still spent summers at the family farm, but I've lived west, lived east, all over the place. So.
All over Kansas, though.
All over Kansas.
All within
and Manhattan. I moved north to go to college. So
Kansas and Manhattan, absolutely. Yeah. Of course. So your family, like a lot of agricultural communities, I think people think of like the grain belt or the wheat belt or bread. What do they call it? The bread basket. All of the different terms we have. We think of that as a really religious place, right? So was your family very religious? Was it a big Christian culture there?
Definitely grew up going to church multiple times a week. Did not grow up Orthodox, but my mom, she definitely led the charge, and my dad as well. But everyone, yes, for sure. Pray before you eat, all the things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Would you say that you were personally, did you feel like you were religious, or were you more like, this is what the family's doing and I'll think about it later?
I feel like just being raised in a home where your faith was a part of your everyday life. It was just something that I've always known there was, always believed in God and always had a strong faith. So yeah, I think it was definitely just a part of who I was.
That's beautiful. That's excellent. So so I would assume, I'm kind of imagining that the farm is in a very rural area, and then you guys moved kind of to the city or into town, or how we would have said it back when we were growing up, right? Back in town. Where did you guys end up? Was it like a suburb or a city, or what were you doing?
A very small town. My dad got a job at a hospital that my uncle actually worked at. And so when we moved to southeast Kansas, we moved from a lot of family members and a lot of cousins. And then we moved to Parsons, which also had a couple of aunts and uncles. And my dad, my dad has 10 or 11 or had 10 or 11 brothers and sisters. My mom, there were 5 siblings in her family. So we grew up with a ton of cousins and a ton of aunts and uncles. And that didn't change when we moved to Parsons, Kansas.
That's neat. So did you kind of move like from your mom's family to your dad's family? Yeah.
We did. I've never thought of that before, but we did.
But that's
Cool. Yes. And both of my dad and my mom were from the same town as well. So it was,
That's lovely. That's neat.
Yeah.
Were you did you have like a best friends among your cousins? Was there like a little crowd that were all born at the same time and you ran around?
So my dad was the baby of the family. And so a lot of my cousins were quite a bit older. I mean, like married with kids, but there was definitely a group of all of us that ran around and led the charge,
That's awesome.
At gatherings. And yeah, it was beautiful. I kind of lament the fact that my kiddos don't have cousins. But they have found a lot of what we call cousins in the church. So,
well, and I mean, I think you can't underestimate that either, because I really think kids who grow up together in church together, it's a pretty intense bond. It's a very close bond, but it's a lot like cousins. But okay, so what kind of a kid were you? Like, what sort of stuff did you like doing?
What kind of kid was I? I think I was tended to be very busy, athletic, into a lot of sports and activities, and always on the go. I never wanted to miss out on anything. I wanted to kind of be in the mix of everything. Kind of a wild child, I guess, when I got into high school, and really just always wanted to push my boundaries, and wanted to be the first kid to do whatever it was. I was always up for the challenge. I can remember, getting in trouble a little bit at school. And I look back and I think of all these people that really kind of would just help navigate and guide me, and just always had my back in a lot of different ways, which maybe that's why I went into education. I don't know. I feel like I had a lot of teachers out there that had their eye on me too and wanted me to succeed. And so, yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. What a wonderful way to grow up. That's fantastic. So now your family was going to church, but it wasn't an Orthodox church. What kind of church was it?
We grew up Pentecostal, which is very, very different than Orthodoxy.
Sure.
And then when I met my would-be husband, I think that's when he grew up Mennonite. Actually, he did not grow up Orthodox either. But his parents were actually exploring Orthodoxy when we were dating. And so that's what introduced him and I both to the church. So
well, that's interesting. So, and Mennonite and Pentecostal are also fairly different from each other, right?
Very different. Very different.
I picture Mennonites as being much calmer than Pentecostals.
Very much. Yes. Yeah. It was very different. I can remember visiting the church in Wichita with my would-be in-laws, and being completely overwhelmed and just feeling very, lost at sea. Just didn't know what was going on with bells and incense. And I can remember at this point I was out of college, and I remember calling the church, which again, I can't believe I did this, but I remember calling the church, and Father Paul answered the phone, which I think is funny that it wasn't the secretary or something like that. But I can remember just blurting out, "Your church is freaking me out." And he just started, I know, I can't believe I did that, but
I love that though. But isn't that great? Thank God you did, right? Like, how good that you felt comfortable saying that. I mean,
and thank God that he answered the phone. Yeah. And I'm so glad that Father Paul answered the phone, because who knows what somebody else would have said. But he just kind of chuckled and was, like, come to catechumen classes, come, if you have questions, if you have, come and ask these questions. So, that's that was kind of that was my introduction to Orthodoxy. But yeah,
that's hilarious and amazing. But okay, well, so you mentioned that you went to school in Manhattan. So yes. Where did you go, and what were you studying? What was the thought process? Why did you leave Kansas? You had this big family and all this stuff going on, and you were like, I got to go to the big city.
Well, I didn't go to Manhattan, the Big Apple. I went to Manhattan, the Little Apple in Kansas. So there's Manhattan, Kansas. Yes. Yeah. The Little Apple. Yeah. Easy mistake.
That is hilarious. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yes. So Manhattan.
What school is in Manhattan, Kansas?
Kansas State University.
Oh, really?
Yes.
It's in Manhattan, yes. Kansas.
It's in Manhattan.
I never noticed it.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
So went up there. I was a little bit too social during high school. I had to go to a community college for a couple years to kind of get my act together and to improve my GPA. And so I went to a community college for a couple years, and then I went to K-State. And at that point, I think I had grown and matured and could reflect a little bit on some of the people that were important in my life. And I had picked elementary education at that point. So when I went to K-State, I began studying for elementary education. Definitely the little kids, not the bigger kids. So
yeah. And you were kind of inspired by these teachers who had taken care of you and cared about you as a kid. Did you ever tell any of them that? Did you go to any of those teachers and and say,
I
yes,
have. I have. It's funny because we all have models in our life, right? Like we have the people that we look at and we want to be. And then I think we also have people in our lives where it's like, I'm not going to be like that, And so on the flip side, I had some teachers too that, maybe didn't think I would ever go to college. And I was, again, I don't know what it is in me, but I was going to prove them wrong that I was going to go to college.
Yep.
So
they don't know it, but it's a great strategy, actually.
Maybe that's what they were doing too.
Reverse
maybe
psychology.
They knew that would fire me up. Yeah, absolutely. But so I do. I have some teachers in my life that I have connected with, and I'm very grateful for. And yeah, I tried to bring that also into the classroom what kind of teacher do I want to be, and what kind of teacher do I not want to be. And so I think just a lot of these influences that kiddos have when they're small, and as we're growing, we just I don't think we understand how impactful our interactions are with people. But
that's beautiful. How lovely.
For sure.
All right. So you headed off to Manhattan. At what point did you meet your husband? Was it after school?
Not soon after. No, I think, just probably the first semester of college, honestly, that I was there, which would have been my junior year of college because of the 2 years at community college. But I think I met him right away. We did not start dating right away. I think I think in my mind, in my heart, like I knew he was the one when I saw him. I just knew he was the one. But at that point too, I don't think either one of us was looking at getting into a serious relationship. We had a great group of friends in college still to this day, and a lot of common friends. And so, we were able to get to know each other and to, just enjoy, I think, a lot of the college experience that, without too much drama or, dating ups and downs. And then we started, I think maybe the second year that I had known him, we started dating. And then it was, we knew.
That's beautiful. I love that.
Yeah.
What was he like as a young man when you first met him?
I think he's incredible. He always had a strong faith, which drew me to him immensely. He always knew who he was as a person. He's calm. He's patient. He's a very disciplined guy. He's an engineer. If that tells you anything, he's there's a way to do everything and a procedure. Yeah. And so he's very much an engineer, which I think balances really well with an elementary education, kind of creative, whatever. Let's just see what happens. Yeah. So yeah, he's a great guy.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Did you guys know from the start when you got, like, as you were first getting married, we're going to have a whole bunch of kids. We're going to have or were you thinking like, well, we'll go one at a time and we'll see?
So I've been thinking, I think just being on this podcast had me kind of thinking back a little bit. And I think what's crazy, we were talking about this at lunch today, but we were set to join the church on the Sunday of Pentecost. And at that point, we were not even engaged, but I had committed to joining the church. We were just dating. He was committed to joining the church, and he proposed to me the night before we were chrismated. So again, I think that just, again, kind of we were on the right path. We knew where we were, we knew where we were going, and we knew where we were headed, but quick engagement. We were only engaged for 4 or 5 months, and then we got married. And no, we didn't talk about having a lot of kids, or I don't know, maybe it was just assumed. But 4 months into our marriage, I unexpectedly got pregnant with our first. And so we went from joining a new church, getting married and having a baby all within a year. So there was a lot of change, a lot of growth.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot. So, but I thank God. I thank God for our oldest son, Brady. He's just, I can't speak highly enough of him, and really the trajectory that it moved our life forward on was definitely God's plan. And I'm grateful for everything.
Well, so initially it was your in-laws who were looking at the church. And so they were Mennonites and they were looking at orthodoxy. How did a couple of Mennonites even hear about orthodoxy out of curiosity? I'm always interested to find out, like, how'd you even know it existed? Because it's, America's best kept secret.
Right. My father-in-law's, one of his best friends from growing up, I'm going to mess this story up, but I believe he was a pastor at a church, at a Mennonite church, but he was also just, searching and looking, and he is now a priest, Father John Bays. And so he kind of introduced orthodoxy to my in-laws and brought them over. So it was a whole trickle effect, but it was through my father-in-law's friendship with a childhood friend that introduced him to orthodoxy.
There you go. And there are quite a few Orthodox people in Wichita, actually. Right. I mean, it's actually not that small because that's the seat of the diocese for the Antiochian church there, right?
We have a wonderful Orthodox community. We have multiple churches, St. Mary, St. George, St. Michael's. It's just a beautiful community of people, for sure.
That's wonderful. Okay, so your in-laws find out about Orthodoxy. They're thinking about it. Were you all chrismated at the same time, or were they Orthodox first and then you and your husband moved your way toward it?
They were first, not by I think we were chrismated the same year, but they were kind of chrismated around Lazarus Saturday 2002, and we were chrismated in June, the Sunday of Pentecost in 2002. So not too far apart.
No, a couple months really, but really actually just like Pascha in the 40 days.
Really?
I guess it's 57 days later. Exactly.
It was pretty stair-stepped, but it was a beautiful time. And I'm so grateful for meeting my husband and having his family, kind of dive into this. I never would have dived into it on my own, even though I was kind of searching and looking and, also wondering what else was out there. But I thank God for them paving the way for us. And
That's neat. So you were engaged and then chrismated the next day. So you had an Orthodox wedding. How was all of this for your parents? Because I know I was converting right around when I was getting married, and my parents did not convert. And so it was really like weird for them.
It's tough.
How did your parents react?
I think it's tough. I think, and I think, 20 years down the road, they can look and they can see, the kind of house that we're raising our children in, and they can see the benefits of it. But we're talking about two completely different Christian faiths, and even things. I mean, the wedding was one thing; it was kind of tough. But then, I think one of the harder things was our firstborn's baptism. I think that was really hard on my parents, and it was new to us too. We, again, we did not grow up with infant baptisms, and everything was new to us that first year. So everything was new, and we just kind of went bam, bam, bam. So it was a struggle. There was a lot of conversations. My parents still belong to the same church I was raised in. And again, I have a lot of respect for them, and they're very, very faithful people, and have just done an incredible job, in their community too, and do a lot for their church. And so I think you just work out the kinks through time. It takes time.
Well, and like you say, over the years, as they see that you have a very Christian home and you have very Christian children and all of that, they relax a little more. But it's so foreign, right? Like, it's not like you've gone from, one denomination to another denomination within Protestantism. It's really it's a big difference. The sacramentalism and all of that is very foreign.
It's a big difference. It's the icons, asking Mary to intercede for us. These are big things. But I don't know if I've said this to my mom or imagined that I should say this someday. I don't know. But, my mom is, she has her community of ladies that that they will pass on if somebody has a prayer request or a need, or, they start talking to their ladies and it spreads. Right. And I in my mind, it's the same when we pray, and ask the saints to intercede for us, so I feel like it's similar. And
I do too. Somehow people don't necessarily jump on board with that when I tell them that, but I think it is very similar. And it does make sense, but it just takes them a while to get used to it. And some don't ever get used to it. But
no. Probably won't.
I interview people who are like, I found Orthodoxy and then my whole family followed. And I'm like, no, not there.
No. My brother and sister didn't. And, so but it's fine.
It's over the years, I think it evens out. It's just those first years that are crazy. So how was it for you, the wedding? Like, cause it was really completely different from the wedding you thought. Like when you were growing up and you pictured what you were going to do when you got married, it probably looked like every television show in America ever of weddings, right? I do. So. And
I think I'm kind of an anomaly because I never really thought, I didn't plan my wedding out or think about things like that. But everything was different, so it was one of those things. Again, we had a very short engagement. We'd been friends and we had dated. And by the time he proposed, we were like, let's just do it. We were just ready to go. So it was kind of a blur. I had been to one Orthodox wedding intentionally before we got married, just to kind of see how it was. I think, again, being in the middle of it, it wasn't as hard as maybe it was on the outskirts looking in and trying to, I'm sure it was hard for my mom, looking back. Moms also dream about that day when their girls get married, and so much of it was out of her hands. So I'm sure it was very, very difficult. But again, being kind of in the middle of it all, I was just kind of going through it, and So
well,
I need to call my mom, huh? I feel like.
Well, you just had so much to absorb, right? Because everything's so different that it's like, well, it's just another thing that's completely different.
Everything. So, yeah.
There you go. There you go. All right. Well, we are going to take a very short break, and then we'll be back and we'll find out how Jaleen found her way to the treehouse and what exactly that's all about. So we'll be right back.
A Child's Guide to Vespers by Ancient Faith Publishing is designed to help children follow along with the service of Great Vespers and learn more about the Church and our faith. Small and easy to hold with enriching illustrations, the guide is divided into several color-coded sections on things like preparing for Vespers, Vesperal hymnography, evening prayers at home, and more. This guide is written for children ages 2 to 10. The very young child will learn basic vocabulary and come to recognize the various milestones in Great Vespers. For the older child, the guide will include several longer prayers and quotes, information on iconography, fasting, prayer, and almsgiving, plus an extensive glossary filled with terms and vocabulary often heard throughout the liturgical year. Available now at store.ancientfaith.com. Again, that is store.ancientfaith.com.
Tonight with Jaleen Claassen, and she, we were just saying that she married the most wonderful engineer ever, and they started having babies just right away, sort of without, not necessarily intentionally, but it was all wonderful and worked itself out. And you ended up having 4 kids, huh?
We did, yes. We had 2 boys kind of right out, they were a couple years apart, and I was good. I thought I'm going to be a boy mom, and we're golden. This is great. And then we actually unexpectedly got pregnant. I don't know why I say unexpectedly. We got pregnant again, and we lost that little one. We had a miscarriage. And even though it wasn't something that I was thinking about, I and want, like we weren't actively wanting it to add to our family. But after the miscarriage, I think both of us were kind of like, maybe we should have another one. So we had another one, and we had a baby girl that time, which was just incredible after having two boys. And there was 5 years between my second and my third. And then I always wanted 4. It took me 5 more years to convince my husband that four is a good number. And so, when I was 38, I started having kiddos when I was 26. And at 38, I had my last pregnancy, and our 4th Pepper was born. So, yeah.
That's adorable, Pepper.
Yeah.
You know what? That is actually kind of brave in a sense that when you wait 5 years, like you're done with diapers, the kid is off to school, like life just got easier, and you're like, okay, let's start over. Let's roll it back.
I don't know. Maybe it's working at the treehouse. There, just being around moms and babies, and I've always loved babies, and obviously children with the elementary education degree. But I think my mom and dad having big families and growing up with, I wanted that for my kiddos too. I wanted them to have a team, so to speak, with each other. And even though my oldest is 13 years older than his baby sister, there's just a great camaraderie there. And it's just a beautiful thing. My 2 boys are in school together right now. They're in college together. And I love seeing their bond with each other, and that they have each other and always will. And they're completely different kiddos. Their strengths and weaknesses are, in just completely different areas. But again, they work together as a team really well. So yeah, I thank God for kids. They have definitely made me a better person for sure.
That's wonderful. So, okay. Yeah. So you were chrismated in 2002. Is that right? And the Treehouse was founded in 2001. So how did all of that evolve? Like, when did you find out about the Treehouse, and what was it when you found out about it?
So we opened our doors in January of 2002, I believe. And I think just seeing in the bulletin that volunteers were needed. The first time I met Renee, who was one of the founding founders of the Treehouse, I had gone to a meeting at Bishop Basil's house, and he was going to talk about the Treehouse. So I knew that I was going there to learn more about the Treehouse. But being new, I kind of picked a spot in the corner of the room away from everybody else, and I sat down and I was waiting, and there was a lady sitting next to me, and we started talking and just hit it off. And then when they introduced the Renee to come up and to speak about the Treehouse, this lady sitting next to me, who I've just been, chatting with for 15 minutes, got up and was the executive director of the Treehouse, and I had no idea. So we immediately I had immediately connected with her and felt like she was one of my people, even though I didn't know her. I don't even know if I knew her name at that point. And this was that was actually before I joined the church too, when I first met her. So in a whole nother story, she is actually my sponsor into the church. So we had gotten to know each other that way. And then I started volunteering during the summers or spring break. I had a little one at that point. And so it was, motherhood was very humbling to me. Motherhood did not come naturally. It was something that I had to work at. You see all these brochures of beautiful moms and beautiful calm babies, and they're nursing or whatever. And that was not necessarily my experience, even though I loved motherhood from the moment I knew that I was here to be a mom. But it just was hard, it was just incredibly hard, and even with a support system. So I think that appealed to me also, to help with the Treehouse and to be just a friend to other moms was,
I love that. That's how you decided to be a teacher too, right? Like you had,
you had just a relational
kind of
person
helping you.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and you were appreciating help from other people, and then, finding a way to be that.
This is how we get through life. This is how we we grow and become better people too, is just our relationships with other people. So yeah, I think it's part of my DNA.
Now, so what was the original mission of the Treehouse exactly? Like what was it set up to do?
So
I imagine over 20 years, it's kind of shifts around and moves a bit.
It has shifted. I think the Treehouse was just initially opened by two women who had a heart for moms. They weren't exactly sure what that looked like. And I think the committee, the group that started the Treehouse was very, very wise. It was a grassroots effort. They went out into the community. They started meeting with other places, pregnancy care centers, places that were already offering services for moms. The political climate at that time was very divisive. And so they kind of went out into the community and they said, what is needed? What do moms need? And we heard that next step. We have pregnancy care centers. We have care for them even before the baby is born. We help with pregnancy and things like that, but we need that next step. And so I think that's where the Treehouse was kind of formed. That's when the pieces started coming together, is when they started thinking about, well, what is that next step? What is that next level of care that moms need? And so that's where, again, I think the founders of the Treehouse, and there's a large group of them, and they spread across multiple Orthodox churches in Wichita. I'm so grateful for the prayer that they put into this and the time that they put into this, because even though 20 years have passed, we're still doing what we set out to do 20 years ago. Programs have deepened. We started with one class a week, and we were told moms don't want to come to class. They want free stuff. They want diapers. They want formula. They don't want to participate in programs. And the Edie at the time adamantly disagreed with that. She said, I'm sorry, women want a community. That's just, they do. Yep. And so she opened the doors once a week for a class on Wednesdays, and the moms started coming almost immediately. And then we had two classes, one in Spanish and one in English. And so over time, we've just grown, and we have 6 classes a week now, still in English and Spanish. And so like I said, the things that we offer have increased, and the services that we can give moms have increased, but we still have that foundation where we are reaching moms with compassion, with empathy, with kindness, and really, the Orthodox way too of just showing God's love isn't necessarily, it's just in everything we do. It's how we hand a mom a clipboard. It's how we greet a mom when they come in. It's how we respond when they are not having the best of day, month, year, and they're just beat down. We have a unique opportunity to just love on these moms where they're at. And I thank God for the opportunity to do that.
That's lovely. What kinds of classes are you offering them?
Our programs are built on 4 pillars. So parenting classes, life skill classes like budgeting or nutrition, healthy relationship classes, and not just with a significant other, but it could be with family members. We have a lot of moms that come from families that are very broken and hurt and generational poverty. And then the 4th pillar is spiritual growth. We have in English and Spanish spiritual growth classes every Thursday.
Neat.
So, yeah.
And is that kind of sort of Bible study, or is it more personal, or how does it? It's not exactly
changes.
Orthodox would be my guess, right?
We have Orthodox facilitators. We also have facilitators from other churches. We partner with a lot of different churches in our community, as well as individual donors. So our facilitators for any of our classes are typically 4 to 6 weeks. Our classes are a 4 to 6 week cycle. And our facilitators for spiritual growth will either do a book study, a Bible study. We actually just partnered with Faith Tree, and we're going to introduce the Relationship Project, which is going to be part of our spiritual growth classes. I'm really excited about that. We've used Right Now Media for years, and so I was really excited to see that they were on Right Now Media, and we're looking forward to that curriculum for sure.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's really neat.
Yes.
That's neat. So, if there's let's say a young woman, maybe a single mom in Wichita who has come from a very troubled family. Mm-hmm. So she goes through the process, and she's probably got other places that she's gone for like prenatal care and then through the birth of the baby. How old would the baby be when she first starts coming to you guys?
Moms get referred to us relatively quickly. If they're going through, let's say, a pregnancy care center and they have just found out they're pregnant and are needing additional support, they can start immediately at the treehouse. We try to take women in that have children under the age of 1. They might have older kiddos, but as far as like the babies under the age of 1, we're kind of unique in the sense that all of our families are referred to us from the community. I keep saying pregnancy care centers, but we work with social workers and caseworkers and domestic violence shelters and, middle schools and high schools. We work with a lot of different referring agencies that will refer women to us, specifically women that need community, that need additional support, that are, they want to participate in programs. Our building is an earn while you learn program design, which means anytime moms participate in a class, they get to take home diapers or formula or wipes. And so you are partnering that education with the material assistance. And so many of them are in that survival mode where they desperately need the diapers, the formula, the wipes. And so, we mirror both of those together to kind of help both of the needs that the mom might have, or a couple of the needs that the mom might have. But I think the beauty of the treehouse really comes in that classroom when moms are sitting around the table. Everyone's from different backgrounds, different ages, single moms, married moms, very young moms, some older moms. And then just creating that space where women can be vulnerable and talk about their trials and their joys, and, just sharing that with other women. We want those friendships to extend beyond the walls of the treehouse. We know we're not going to be in their lives forever. We want them to have people that they can call, when they move on. So yeah, it's a beautiful, if anyone is ever in Wichita and they want to come to the treehouse, please let me know. I'd love to show you around.
Now, do you rely on gifts? Like, speaking of visiting the treehouse, do you guys rely on donations, or do you receive any funding, or how does it work?
We do. We don't receive, we're a 501c3. We do not receive federal or state funding. We really depend on private donors. Churches, we've got churches that support us through their ministries, teams, and missions. We absolutely depend on the community at large to help us. I have said it before, we cannot pour into our moms if we don't have people pouring into the treehouse with, it could be material items, it could be, monthly donors are huge and help bring stability to what we do. We can also, we write grants and have a lot of different opportunities with grants. It's tricky though, because we are a faith-based agency, and we have, our mission is the treehouse offers mothers and babies a brighter future through sharing God's love, basic necessities, education, and genuine personal care. We, sharing God's love being in the mission statement, we don't shy away from that. So it does, there are definitely funds that we can't receive because of that. But I thank God that's who we are, though. That's who we serve, and that's how we can really give our moms that genuine personal care. We love because He first loved us.
So if someone wanted to, if someone listening wanted to send something to the treehouse, how do they find you? WichitaTreehouse.org is our website. That would give you, my phone number. You can email me directly, Jaleen at WichitaTreehouse.org. Give us a call. Online donations are accepted. But really, I would love to connect with other Orthodox agencies too that are out there and that are in the nonprofit world, and I'd love to touch base with others out there too. So, yeah, I would be curious to know if there are other similar Orthodox groups doing projects like this in other cities. Have you heard about any others, or do you think? There are. There's in Houston, actually, the Nest, I believe, is kind of
being worked on right now, and it's going to offer the same. Houston's a very different place than Wichita, and so it's going to be different, but the focus will also be on moms and babies. And I people ask me all the time, how do you want the treehouse to grow? Where do you see it? What do you see in 3 to 5 years? And it's not necessarily that I see us in a bigger building, although ours is vintage and could definitely use an upgrade. I would just love to see this kind of ministry in the Orthodox Church at different churches all across. It's just something that can make an incredible impact on families. When you can pour into these mamas and these babies during those early, crucial, critical years, we've seen just some incredible things happen in the lives of our moms. So
you think about how many unhealthy generational cycles there are, right? And cycles of violence and abuse and all sorts of different, and addiction and whatever the issue is. A lot of these things, that we see our moms going through this and then we repeat it. And so if you can interrupt when someone has a little baby and show her how to break that cycle, because I think most people want to break the cycle. It's just a question of not having the tools. And so, giving them that support. Have you seen, a lot of success? Because you guys have been around for 22 years now. Do moms come back?
Yes,
kids come back and talk to you?
We just had a kiddo come in the other day, and he towers above me. I held him as an infant. I, sat in class with his mom, and him and his brother are just very successful right now. His mom brought him in, but they were treehouse babies, and I love it when moms will come in and bring their kids in. We also have treehouse babies that come back as volunteers, and that, they're just in a different place. I passed by a mom a couple weeks ago in the hallway, and I just assumed falsely that she was here with another pregnancy and had, I hadn't seen her in probably 10 years, but you never know. I spaced mine out too. But I found out that she was in the building as a classroom facilitator, and she is now a social worker for Catholic Charities. And she was so excited to tell me that her oldest daughter is enrolled in law school, and, just stories like that. I was at my dentist, and my dental hygienist was like, I'm a treehouse mom. You guys helped me so much as a single mom. And all of us that have been a part of this, whenever you talk about the treehouse in the community, people have worked with this in one, either they were a mom or they were a volunteer. And it's an incredible thing. And especially from the educator in me, I know that these kiddos are starting kindergarten in a very different place, be it in their time that they spend in the playroom while their moms were in class, and our playroom staff was pouring love into them and getting them ready for school by the different activities that they were doing. That's a whole nother ministry that I haven't talked about, is really the impact that the treehouse can have on the lives of these children that come in with their moms.
What do you guys offer the kids? Well, no, but what do you offer the kids? Well, because I was thinking about that. When the moms are in class, where are the children? What are they doing?
The children are in a playroom. The kiddos stay with the mamas up until a year. We have a lot of mamas that are nursing, and it's a good thing to be with your little ones. Our playroom is for children 1 to 5 years of age, and so they go in and they do all sorts of songs and rhymes and activities with crafts, and there's a lot of kiddos that come in with very dysregulated emotions, and they really struggle because of their home lives. And so, for us, it's one adult for every 5 children is kind of the policy that we go by. But oftentimes there's more of us in there with kiddos that need one-on-one attention, and they just need to be loved, and they need attention, and they need, just love.
Well, and I think when we think about school readiness, a lot of people in, maybe the suburbs and more comfortable positions are thinking about reading skills and math skills. But sometimes it's emotional regulation skills, right? It's like knowing how to sit at the table and not, lose your mind and hit somebody next to you or whatever, but understanding how to participate. It's got
to start there. Yep. It absolutely has to start there. And not just with our kiddos, but sometimes it's the emotional regulation process that our moms have to go through too. We can have the most incredible evidence-based curriculum in the world, but if they're still in the thick of that hurt and trauma and pain, it's really hard for them to move forward in life. So if we spend time on that side of things, and if we can build confidence in our moms, and if we can love on them, then they're ready for that next step, and they're ready to take on the budgeting class or the nutrition class or even the parenting class, and it's the same with our littles. We can focus on the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s, but if you want to lash out at the kiddo next to you,
Yeah.
For just looking at you, we have to work with those things first. So, again, I can't say enough about the staff at the Treehouse and the volunteers that pour into the lives of these moms and babies. And, also I feel like I need to give a shout out to our board members. I sit around the table at these board meetings, and incredible people donating their time and bringing their talents to the table. It's really a beautiful, beautiful thing to be a part of. I'm just grateful for the team of people that support the Treehouse.
That is really neat. What a beautiful ministry. What a beautiful thing for you to be able to give so much of your life to be able to pour yourself into something so meaningful.
It's incredible. I think the Treehouse has given me more than I could ever give the Treehouse. They've really, my kids have benefited from it. I always had a very flexible schedule and could be a mom. I stayed at home for 5 years, kind of in the middle of the 20 years that I've been down here. I was able to stay home when I had too many littles to, you can't juggle childcare and all that. So, it's been an incredible, incredible place for our family, and God willing for families across Wichita. I'd love to see it anywhere. We have moms call us. They've moved to Missouri or whatever. And where's the Treehouse? Where's the Treehouse in Texas?
Right. They're assuming it's like a chain that there's.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, it makes me want to check and see if we have anything like that in Austin. And if not, start talking to people, because that's a beautiful ministry, and what a critical
really
space it falls into.
And I really feel like our mission was, I feel like God had his hand on it. And I think this mission could be used in any city. When you partner God's love with basic necessities and education, there's just a depth of care there that can really deeply impact people. And so, again, I would love to see it out there, and come visit us, come see what we're doing.
Well, I do think that one of the really lovely things that you brought up was that the founders, one of the first things they did is they went out and they started looking at what was already there and talking to the people in the middle of it and asking what was needed. And very 100%. Often we hear about something in another city and it's like, oh, that's great. I want to do exactly that. It's like, well, first you have to figure out what's needed where you 100%. Are. And, too often we just run in and we're like, I know what you need. Mm-hmm. And we may not know what they need.
And that's so true with our moms too. A mom comes in and she starts to, she tells us she's homeless. And the first thing we want to do is, what shelters can we find and this and that. And that might not be her immediate need. You have to dig down a little bit deeper. And I think the grassroots effort that went into forming the Treehouse was critical. And it's so true. You have to know what your community already has. And the other thing that makes, I think, a nonprofit successful is partnering with those community agencies that are already out there. We are not siloed. We don't do this alone. We don't teach all of the classes down here. We have other agencies that come in and bring the budgeting, the nutrition, some of the parenting classes even. We let them bring in their expertise and their wisdom. And we have to do that for us to be successful and for us to be impactful. And then you have, all these warm handoffs for your moms that they now have connections in the community and they have resources, by coming to Treehouse classes.
That's neat. That's very neat. Well, you mentioned that you get referrals from them as opposed to just people kind of walking in off the street. Do people ever just walk in, or is it always by referral?
We do. And there's a bit of a gray area there. But we do have the majority of women that come to us come on a referral basis. And that is There's a lot of reasons for that. I will say that the programs that we can pour into our moms in a lot of different ways. We have a car seat program where they get new car seats. They earn new car seats. We have a layette program where it's kind of a baby shower in a bag where they're earning these items. And then the diapers, the formula, the wipes. We're not a diaper depot. We're not somewhere where people can just come and get free things. It really is a resource center. And so we really do need the help of our referring partners to kind of help. I don't like saying vet, but, like to kind of vet the families that they're working with and to really send us those mamas that need that extra TLC and that extra care.
Well, and also maybe to set expectations with them too, that like, it's not that you're going to walk in and they're going to hand you supplies and you're going to leave. But in fact, like how do you feel about coming and taking classes? Like,
that's exactly
how do you feel
right.
About meeting some other moms and spending some time?
That's exactly right. Yeah. You get a lot of phone calls that are like, do you help with formula? Do you, and then when we start explaining the program, click. They don't, they don't, but you know what? That's not the headspace that they're in. They're not ready for that. They're in a moment of tyranny. And so even if when we answer the phone, the way we talk to them and the way we, describe who we are and what we do, they might be ready for us in a couple of years. They might, you never know, the impact that we can have on a mom. Even if it's us saying, I'm sorry, we don't have this, we can't help you right now. You just never know how that, you just want to leave. You want them to leave the treehouse knowing that this is a place full of God's love and full of women that care for them. And even as hard as it might be that we couldn't fit their need right then and there, Yeah.
Well, I think that's so important. And it's not really, it's not just in a nonprofit. It's not just working with a traumatized or struggling population. It's really always true, right? Like we need to be careful about how we talk to people and what impression we leave with them, right? Like whether they're visiting our parishes or we just cross them on the street, we're telling them what other humans think of them and what other humans prioritize and whether we value them. And that, too often maybe we don't think about that, but it's an important priority, isn't it?
It really is. It really is. And, I talk to my kids about this all the time, mostly they talk to strangers just fine. It's how they talk to each other, but
well, yeah, that's a classic,
right? But it's so true. I'm lucky enough to work in a place where my faith surrounds me. I've got icons on the walls and I'm constantly reminded that I'm here, but in the workplace, on the drive to work, our interaction with people, it can be so impactful. And so it's, in our busy worlds where we're going, it's just really important to stop and try to connect and to see how people are doing and where they're at. And you never know. You just never know.
That's amazing. And look how your life kind of took a turn there too. You studied early education. I'm sure you just assumed you would be an elementary teacher for a long time. And then, all of a sudden, here's this crazy church and this godmother who just kind of appears and this beautiful calling to come and help out.
It's really incredible. And, I touched on it just for a second, but, I was a wild child. I could very easily have a very different life right now. And I don't take that for granted. It does not escape me that I'm sitting on this side of the desk and pray that I can always connect with the women that come in, no matter who that is, because I was one of them.
But thank God, right? Because then that gives you that insight, right? So
Absolutely.
It gives you that connection. How
Absolutely.
beautiful. Well, Jaleen, it is so nice to get to know you and to hear about the Treehouse. And I've put the website on our Facebook page, Treehouse, Wichita, treehouse.org. And in case anybody wants to look it up or ask you questions about what they should be doing in their own community or whatever.
Please reach out. I would love to chat with anyone.
That is so beautiful. Well, thank you for being on the program. And thank you to our audience. Thank you for joining us tonight. Come back next week. We'll talk to another everyday Orthodox Christian. Good night.